So this here is going to be a painting video for the Primaris Apothecary. So we just finished him here, and we did him up with our own Legion colors, but the painting itself is going to be pretty much the same, and then all you'll do is change the shoulder pad and the Fallen Space Marine to match. So just stay tuned for a little bit. We'll show you how we painted him up. And if you like these kind of videos, if you find this helpful, please feel free to leave a like or a comment, or subscribe to the channel. That always helps. And otherwise than that, stay tuned, and you'll see how we painted him up. So this here's our painting video for our Primaris Apothecary. So what we've got here is we've got him base coated now. And the first thing we did with him is we base coated him with some Leadbelcher spray paint. So that's the GW one, and we're going to use that as a primer. Also, it's important to notice he's not attached to the base, and that's so we can get at the underside of the model here. So once we're finished with the armor and the cloak and the loincloth, we'll reattach him to the base there. So now he's primed in Leadbelcher, and the first thing we're going to do now is dry brush on a little bit of Runefang steel, which will lighten up the base coat quite a bit, because we're going to make him metallic. So as you see the dark shade there now, and as we put that on, it's going to lighten quite nicely there. So we're going to do all of the actual armor itself. So the arms, the other arm, the two shoulder pads, the backpack, the two legs. We'll probably do the Marine on the ground as well, but we'll paint him a different color after. So we'll do all that now, probably hit the guns as well, and then all the claws and so forth and so on. So we'll do all that now and meet back here in a few minutes. So now that the Runefang steel is finished, what we're going to do now is take a little bit of contrast paint, Apothecary white, and what we're going to do is, with that diluted down at almost 1:1, we're just going to brush that right over all of the armor that we want to be white. So the leg, the arm, the other arm over here. We're going to do the backpack, but not the extensions, and then not the gun, of course. So we'll do most of that now, just like so, and be back here in a few minutes once that's finished. So this is our Primaris Apothecary after 2 coats watered down of the Apothecary white contrast paint. So as you can see, it's a grayish, lightish metallic color, but it's not quite white. Because he is an apothecary, we want him to stand out as white. So what we're going to do now is add a dry brush of white scar just over the top. We're just going to dry brush that right like so. Only getting a little bit, really cleaning off the brush. Because we want that metallic to shine through. Something like that there. Something like that. So we'll keep dry brushing that on as light as we can, and be back here in a few moments once that's done. So this is our model now that we finished with the white scar dry brush, and as you can see, we've done it fairly light, keeping some of the metallic from underneath. You could do it a harder dry brush than that and make it much more white if you like. We didn't really want to do that. But we do want it a bit more metallic than this. So you have 2 choices here. What we're going to do is we're either going to dry brush on some Necron Compound, or you could dry brush on some Stormhost Silver. Over the white. And what that will do is add a bit more of a metallic sheen to it again. So just like so. And it creates a much shinier white, which I don't think the video is given credit for. But it definitely shines a little bit brighter than normal. So we'll continue with that. And once we're finished there, we'll start working on the cloth here. So here's our model now that we've finished with the white. And as you can see, we've added quite the sheen to it. So it looks very metallic again, and it'll match the rest of our army. It really stands out. Now, part of that is just the appearance of the base color on some of the other parts, which we'll fix as we dull that down. But for the most part, it does stand out really, really nicely as a bright, shiny white. So what we're going to do now is doing the cloth. And this should be a pretty straightforward one. We wanted a nice scarlet color for blood, for first aid and for the apothecary itself. So what we're going to do is a base of Mephiston red. Followed by a shade of Carroberg Crimson to get a nice dark color. We'll do a layer of Evil Sunz Scarlet and one more of Wild Rider Red, which is your typical scarlet color. And then that will get our cloak and such finished. We also don't want to forget to do the inside of the tabard, which is between the legs here. And we also want to take the time with this to make sure we don't go over the white, because it's difficult to replace or fix, especially since it has that metallic sheen on it. So in any case, we'll do that now and be back here in a few minutes once we've got that layering finished. And we'll see you in a few minutes. So this is our model now that we finished with the red. And what we're going to do now is move on to another color. And what we're going to do is work on the belt and the holsters here. So on the box art, they're black, but we're going to make them leather. So belt goes right around the back here, and there's a second holster in the back on the back end. So we're going to start that with a base of Rhinox hide, followed by a dry brush of Skrag brown, and that'll give us a nice leather appearance. So we're going to do that now, and be back here in just a few minutes. So now that our brown is finished, we did the holster in the front, as well as all of the belt. And then the holster in the back as well. You see the two-tone effect with the two types of brown. So we're ready to move on to our next color. And what we're going to do is all of these metallic gears here, the mirror on the side, the bottles on the leg, the guns in the hand, the ones in the holster. We're going to do them all metallic as well as with a shade. So we're going to do it Leadbelcher again, same as we did in originally. And we're going to add a shade of Newell and Oil over the top, and then dry brush on an Iron Breaker, which will be a little bit different from the Runefang steel that we did, so it'll be a little darker. And we'll do that now, same way we do with most metallics. So we'll just do it on all of these, as well as all of the guns and emplacements here, and the pieces on the backpack, the vents and things like that. So we'll do all that and be back here in a few moments. So here is our apothecary now that we finished with all the metallics. And as you can see, there's a nice shine to them now. Anything that's going to stay metal is very, very shiny. So what we're going to do now is start doing a little bit more details around. So we're going to start doing these canisters here. Probably this canister as well. And things like that. And we're going to do it with a bronze color. So we're going to use Balthasar gold on that. So we'll brush those with Balthasar gold and then probably add something along the lines of a Runelord brass just to lighten it up afterwards. but we want to sort of make those stand out as those jars and vials. So we'll do that now and be back here in a few minutes. So this here's our model now that we finished with the brass. And as you can see, we've made it quite shiny and it stands out quite nicely. So from here, we're going to move on to a couple of different things, but they share a lot of the same colors. So we're going to work on the face right here, as well as the Oath's Moment over here. And he's also packing a skull on the back of the model here. So all of those are going to get based and shaded with the same colors. So they're going to take a base of Rakarth flesh, and then they're going to take a shade of Seraphim Sepia. So we're going to do both of those now, and then meet back here again for the overcolors, and those will be different. So this here's our model now that we finished with the Rakarth flesh and the sepia. So as you can see, we really made the face stand out quite a bit, as well as the Oath's Moment here. Same thing happened with the skull on the back. And we also did the shoulder pad banner here as well. So with that finished, we're going to add the highlights to each of these areas. Now 3 of them are going to go the same, and then the face is going to go separate. So we'll start with the oaths, the skull, and the banner. And they're all going to get one dry brush of Screaming Skull, which is going to add sort of an off-white to them. So we'll do that now. And once again, it's just a slight dry brush right over this area, picking up the highlights and filling in some of the plateau flat areas. So we'll do that now. Be back in a few minutes. So this is our model now that we finished with the Screaming Skull. And as you can see, the Oath's a Moment look quite nice. So what we're going to do now is the rest of the head. And that's going to take 2 layers. A dry brush of Cadian Fleshtone, followed by another very light highlight of Kislev flesh. So we'll do both of those now, and be back here in just a few moments once that's done. So this is our model now that we finished with both flesh tones, and as you can see, it stood out quite nicely. We added a tiny bit of Screaming Skull for an eyeball, and that pretty much finishes the face. We'll come back and do the pupil later. But from now, we're going to move on to another color. So our next thing we're going to do is all of the gold trim. We're going to do it with some Retributor armor. And this includes the skull right on the collar, as well as the insignia on the shoulder pad, as well as a few other points around the model. We're going to do all that with Retributor armor now. And then we'll probably shade it as well with some Seraphim Sepia, which we used already. So we'll do both of those and meet back here in just a few moments. This is our model that we finished with the Retributor Armor Gold. So what we're going to do now is shade that. And we have 2 choices. We can either do it dark or light. If we do it lighter, we'll get a yellowish gold with Seraphim Sepia. Or we could do it darker with an Agrax Earthshade just to bring out all of the deep recesses. If you do an Agrax Earthshade, you'll probably want to put a lighter highlight on it, like a Liberator Gold or something. So we'll do those now and be back in a few minutes. But we're going to do probably that shin pad there, as well as the Calexis on the shoulder, and then any of the other little details we did around the model. So we'll do those now and be back here in just a few minutes. So with our shade finished there, what we're going to do now is move on to our next color. And for that, it's going to be the armor joints that we have in the power armor. So there's definitely one right behind the leg here. Right there. There's a second one over here. And a couple in the elbows here as well. And one in that elbow there. So we'll do those now. We'll also do the stock of the gun here, or the weapon of some sort. We'll do all of those with black with a highlight of lighter gray. So we'll do Abaddon black, followed by an Eshin gray. You could do a Mechanica standard gray or one of the lighter grays, but we're going to use the Eshin. It's got a little bit of a blue tinge to it, stands out. So we'll do that now and be back in just a few moments. So this is our model now that we finished with the black. And as you can see, we did the stock of the gun, as well as all of the armor joints in the back here. So now that that's finished, we're going to work on a couple of little details. The gun has 2 canisters. One is usually red and green, as well as 2 lights up here, red and green. 2 canisters on the waist, which is red and green. And then the gene seed that's in his hand, which is usually a red organ. So we're going to do those reds and greens with a dark green and then a highlight. So we'll do that with maybe a Sybarite green, followed by a moot green. And then for the reds, we're going to do a Mephiston red with maybe an Evil Sunz Scarlet. So we'll do both of those now and meet back here when some more of that detail is done. And we'll see the difference. So this is our model now that we finished with both the red and the green highlights. So as you can see, they really stand out now and they've added a lot of color to the model. The next thing we're going to do is deal with the lenses here on this magnifier, as well as the one on the eye socket there, as well as, well, that's pretty much the ones. So we're going to do with those. And this last tube in the back here, right here, what we're going to do with those is make them all blue. So we're going to do a little bit of Lothran blue with maybe a little bit of blue horror, just to lighten it up a bit and put a little reflection on those lenses. So we'll do those now and meet back here in a few minutes. So here's our model now that we finished with the blue lenses. So we've got one more thing left to do, and it's the seals, the wax seals on the Oaths of Moment here. So we're going to do that with a base of Screamer Pink, followed by a dry brush of Pink Horror over that. And there's only the 3 of them there. So we'll do those now, and then we'll be back in a few minutes. So this here's pretty much our final model. Its appearance, we're going to do the headlight up in the top there with just a brighter white color or something like that. We also left the shoulder pad right here empty. That will be whatever legion you tend to want to put them with, and you'll match probably the Fallen Space Marine to match the shoulder pad. So we'll do all that now. We'll do the base, the rocks, the bullets, and then base them. But effectively, for all intents and purposes, the model itself is finished. So we'll be back here in a few minutes just to see the final product and just to see how it looks. So we'll see you in a bit once we finish off and base the model and do the little final touches. So this here's the final product. As you can see, we've done the base as well as the Fallen Space Marine and the shoulder pad and the headlight, as we mentioned. So the headlight, what we ended up doing was we put a base down of White Scar. Then we put a light layer of Tesseract Glow, followed by a dry brush of Flash Gits Yellow, followed by a little bit of White Scar again. So that lightened it up and added the little bit of a glow to the headlight up on the shoulder pad. That added a little bit of glow to the headlight up on the backpack there. So with that finished, we finished up our model, and we'll see what it looks like now in a second. So with our model, we added also the transfers and the knee pad transfer, and that pretty much finished it up. So if you find this helpful, if you find the final product looks pretty good, and if you want to paint one up similar to this, please feel free to leave a comment or a like or subscribe to the channel if you found this helpful. And otherwise than that, we'll see you in our next painting video. Stay tuned after this, and we'll show you a couple of different angles so you can see the model from a few different sides and see some other details. So otherwise than that, we will see you at our next video. Cheers, and thanks for watching.